In our series covering how the learning environment has changed with the COVID-19 pandemic, we've covered the students and teachers of Hastings High School. But what happens after graduation?
COVID has really affects like to the very microscopic level, like how I go about my day. And that really affects, how school is conducted, how I learn. And it's just been very hard to find a rhythm.
We went to University of Wisconsin River Falls to find out and met with Klara Fansler, who is not only a student, but an RA for one of the dorm halls at the college. With this, she has a unique perspective on how students have adapted to this new learning environment with COVID.
I wouldn't say I've adapted. The new learning environment is kind of a sink or swim thing, and I've been sinking. It has not been good for me. I will say that right now, and I'll say that very clearly. It has not been a good time for me learning-wise.
And the same can be said for the teachers of UW River Falls.
My name is Erik Johnson. I'm an associate professor with the Stage and Screen Arts Department at the University of Wisconsin River Falls, and I teach primarily filmmaking and digital storytelling, so on the screen side of the equation. I've been here since 2008 and have seen quite a lot of changes, but nothing to the level of the changes that COVID has presented.
The challenges of the pandemic are not lost on either of them, with students' mental health and engagement being one of the biggest.
I have zero internal motivation, so I can't make myself do things if they feel like they don't exist. And for it to be online and kind of like this just this ambiguous nothingness, it's just a void. And you're like, oh yes, click the website, haha, it does a thing. Your brain doesn't go, oh yes, this is the thing that needs to happen, and so I don't do it. So it's been really hard for me to keep up with school, and it's really affected my depression. There was a time like a couple months ago that it was really bad. I was not doing great, and I feel like it could have been better if I didn't have to deal with online learning. I understand why we have it, and I'm glad we have at least something, but it's not something that works for me.
Well, teaching-wise, the engagement has probably been the biggest challenge. You've got a wide variety of learning types to begin with, and students that are used to having that one-on-one action with their instructor and their peers that are only able to be in the classroom half that amount of time have really been the biggest struggle.
And teachers are having to adapt to these challenges along with the students.
Well, COVID has been a challenge on many levels. Logistically, most of the classes that I teach at University of Wisconsin River Falls are hands-on experiential learning, which is really a challenge to go online. Every class has an online component to it, but the challenge was, with social distancing, how to go about continuing to teach those classes in a safe manner so students are engaged. I would say that has been probably the biggest challenge. And we did have a few interruptions. We had an outbreak where we had to go on a lockdown for 2 weeks, and that was a wake-up call. And fortunately we had materials and we had things that students could still do online, but by the time we got back, it was like, okay, let's not screw this up again. Let's hopefully everyone's safe and you can continue with this, but we just had to make the best of it. So that's been probably the biggest challenge of the timing and the engagement and how things have shifted from how they used to be to how they are now.
But thankfully, even for these two with very different perspectives, there does seem to be an end in sight.
People are a lot more hopeful now. I feel like it got pretty dark for a while after, but as of right now, there's a lot of hope in what we're being able to experience, and we are, things are looking up. I don't think we'll ever fully get rid of COVID, like not completely, but I think it'll get to be more like the common cold or like flu, like something you don't want, but can be easily dealt with.
I feel real hopeful at this point versus a year ago that there is some end in sight, because our numbers have dropped dramatically. The statistics continue to go in the best direction that they should, and that's really hopeful and something that we can look forward to. Hopefully this will be a piece of history that we'll never forget. But at this point, don't take it for granted. Keep being safe and hope that we can turn the corner on this and get back to a newish normal when everything's said and done.
UW River Falls is very well on track with having a safe and comfortable environment for everyone on campus.
Probably. I'd say probably a little bit safer. But that might just be because the rate of infection has gone down, especially here on campus. We haven't had too many people that have been needing to get quarantined. We get tested every week, and if you don't get tested, your card access gets turned off. So it's been pretty slow. We haven't had a whole lot of infections on campus, so I feel like it's probably safer.
I would have to say that I generally feel quite comfortable. I mean, the fact that everybody has adapted, that everybody seems to be, having adjusted what they've done and working collectively together to solve these problems, that really is reassuring.
While this past year has been a difficult one, it's also been an experience for them to learn from.
I think it's been good experiences for me to learn through and become more mature through. To learn how to adapt to situations, even if I haven't been doing super great with that learning, it's kind of, you have to. Like I said, the sink or swim. And although I have been sinking, I'm working towards swimming. And I feel like that's something that has really been good for me mentally to have to work on myself.
This is something that, stating the obvious, is historical in nature, that none of us have ever experienced before in our lifetimes, and I think that it has taught us some useful lessons that, regardless of things that we experience in life, a lesson lived is a lesson learned, and I certainly wouldn't be here if it weren't for that. And a lot of the lessons that have been learned during COVID, I think, are a reminder of just how life is very fragile, that we can't take for granted the types of opportunities and things that we had been used to before, and just to treat each other how you want to be treated. I mean, to me that is, it should be a basic thing that people do. But when you go through problems, you have loss, you have people that have suffered. Those are reminders that we should really take care of ourselves and take care of one another and hope for the best.
Hoping for the best as well. This is Ian Andrusak with HCTV.